Oh, hello and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him, and today I am here to talk about under the radar buy lows and sell highs in Dynasty Superflex football. Under the radar, meaning we are trying to talk about the guys that are currently being drafted in startup Dynasty Superflex drafts in rounds 4, 5, and 6. I did the same video for rounds 1, 2, and 3. If you want to watch it, I will leave a link to that episode in the description. You guys liked it, you guys watched, so that's why I'm doing this one. If you want to see more like this, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get right into it. These ADPs are based off of the February 1st to February 15th startup Superflex Dynasty. Yeah, people actually do startup drafts this time of year, but it's cool because it gives us an idea of where players are currently being valued. And if you like somebody more than consensus, then you should try and be making trades for him in your Dynasty League. And if you have somebody on your roster for some reason and you think his value is a little bit inflated, maybe you try and find a trading partner for him. The cool part is this does include rookies, so it's a really fun way to make trades if you do have an early first round pick in this upcoming rookie draft. So let's get right into it, and we will be starting with round number 4 right here, which you will see coming from left to right in this part of the screen. My number one sell high in this market is going to have to be Brock Bowers. Now, I know he is probably the best rookie tight end prospect that we have ever seen in Dynasty Superflex, unless you've been playing in some handwritten league for 20, 30, 40 years. He is currently going right around the 106 in rookie startup drafts for Superflex leagues. I actually had 106 in one of my leagues that I acquired through Daniel Jones trade a while back. And I actually recently traded back to 111 and 207 in return for that 106 position, which will probably be Brock Bowers or Rome Odunze out of Washington. I'm a little bit lower on consensus either way. I would much rather have a guy like Xavier Worthy, who hopefully will fall to me at 111, and a running back or a quarterback with high upside in the middle of the second round, like a Braylon Allen, is someone who I'm really hoping and praying will fall to me at that 207 spot. So I would definitely take Xavier Worthy and Braylon Allen or guys of that equivalent value over a guy like Brock Bowers, because we know historically that most of the time rookie tight ends don't produce very well. And I like winning soon, winning often, winning early. I don't want to wait 2 or 3 years for Brock Bowers to really start producing well in the NFL. Now, I know what you're thinking. We just saw Sam Laporta absolutely light up the fantasy football world. That is not normal. Sam Laporta, I did a whole video on it this season. Sam Laporta had the best rookie tight end season since Mike Ditka, maybe Jeremy Shockey if you really want to press me on it, but it's been a really, really long time since we've seen a Sam Laporta, and I know that we're all really excited about Brock Bowers. His production in college was amazing. His film is pretty damn good as well. We'll see if he runs a 40-yard dash. We are currently getting announcements that players are going to come to the draft or they're not going to come to the draft. So if I say something like that and it becomes a little bit outdated, bear with me. And please leave a comment so everyone who's watching the video after that happens knows that they're not going to be at the combine. So if you have 106, I would definitely recommend trying to trade out of it unless you absolutely have a massive need at the tight end position. Then go ahead and take that position on Brock Bowers because you need it for your roster. Or maybe try and turn that into Mark Andrews or TJ Hawkinson, 2 known commodities who we'll cover a little bit more in the video next round. And if you are doing a startup draft, I would definitely recommend taking guys like Tua or Jared Goff ahead of Brock Bowers in Superflex leagues. This is the biggest mistake I think people make in startup drafts in Superflex leagues, is that they don't prioritize quarterbacks enough. You got to get them early, you got to get them often, and you got to sprinkle them through the rest of your roster. Even if you already have 2 solid guys that you love or 3 solid guys that you love, if you can get a 4th solid guy and stockpile those guys, you can trade them in the future when other teams realize like, oh shit, it's really kind of difficult to maintain 2 starting quarterbacks in Superflex year after year. And then once you get in a quarterback hole, then you have to trade up, trade massive assets. It's very costly to find a solid starting quarterback in Superflex. Ask anybody who drafted Bryce Young and Will Levis last year. Early 101, 102, 103. Levis, I think, went 107 in most leagues on average. Those managers are really, really nervous right now and hoping and praying that one of those guys pans out so they can put them into their starting roster. Levis might not even start next season. So if you drafted him and you needed a quarterback to slide in to somebody who you lost due to injury or retirement or whatever, you're in big, big trouble. So you got to prioritize in startup drafts quarterbacks all throughout. Even if you have a stockpile of them, it's best to have a stockpile because then you can trade those guys off for massive, massive assets in the future. Which brings me to my number 1 buy low candidate for this round. I have to go with QB 19, Jared Goff for the Detroit Lions. And now I realize the big reason he is this low is because of his contract situation. I personally believe that he will be signed to a massive extension very, very shortly. And you really are going to want to buy in on him before that happens. Because once that happens, even if you don't believe in Jared Goff, even if you don't need Jared Goff, once he gets that extension, his value is going to skyrocket and you can flip that asset into something better. But I'm telling you, you should believe in Jared Goff because he's in a great situation. He's got a great young receiving tight end core with a great running back duo, which is actually more beneficial for him because Jahmyr Gibbs catches the ball extremely efficiently and gets a lot of yak for him. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, is how good that running back duo is in Detroit. Jared Goff last season was QB 7 in most fantasy football point scoring formats. In 2022, he was quarterback 10. Of course, in 2021, that was his first year with the Lions. He had a really, really rough year with the Lions that year. I believe he was somewhere around quarterback 22 in fantasy football that season, which is still valuable in Superflex for the record, but it's a lot more valuable when he's trending upwards from 22 to 10, from 10 to 7, and has no real reason to slow up other than maybe the Detroit Lions defense gets a little bit better this year, so he's not getting quite as many shootouts. Either way, I love Jared Goff as a fantasy asset, and getting him in the 4th round, late in the 4th round at QB 19, when he's outperformed that for the past 2 years in virtually the same situation, if not a little bit of a worse situation, I love Jared Goff, getting him at 19. I'd probably take him right alongside Tua, right in that Brock Bowers spot, because I like Brock Purdy a little bit more than him. Jared Goff is 29, so you do have to take that in consideration. I'm drawing hairs here, but Dak Prescott, I'd probably take Jared Goff over Dak Prescott just because I don't know where Dak Prescott's going to be playing in a few years. I think Jared Goff will be playing for Dan Campbell in Detroit. Moving on to round 5, we are now going to be reading the chart right to left, starting with Tank Dell, ending with T. Higgins. And my sell high candidate for round 5 is going to have to be Dalton Kincaid. His value, primarily in my opinion right now, is coming from his player profile from last season and the draft capital that fantasy football players put into him and the draft capital that the Buffalo Bills put into him. Obviously, he was the first tight end drafted last year. Wasn't the best tight end in production or with eyeballs, but he was the first one drafted. So it does give him a little bit of a value. But there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about Dalton Kincaid going into this season. First of all, he finished the tight end 15, and you're currently taking him as tight end 4 of this season, which is, obviously we're projecting everything in fantasy football, but that's a lot of good things have to happen for you to go from tight end 15 to tight end 4, particularly when you have still Dawson Knox there. Dalton Kincaid only scored double digits in 2 games this past season where Dawson Knox was healthy. A lot of his production came in that window where Dawson Knox was injured. And for where he's going, Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson going right after him. Mark Andrews missed a ton of games this season from week 1 to 17, the fantasy football regular season and postseason for most leagues. He was out for 6 games. He was out for 7 games if you count week 18. With him missing all of those games, he still outscored Dalton Kincaid, the rookie, granted, in fantasy football points. TJ Hawkinson, of course, top 3 tight end, no matter what your scoring format was in your fantasy football league last season, with a shitty situation. His starting quarterback's Achilles exploded rather early in the season. He was able to overcome that. So even though there is some uncertainty with who his quarterback will be this upcoming season, doesn't really matter because he already demonstrated that he was able to transcend the situation that he's in because he is that type of special player. TJ Hawkinson, I think, a much better value here than Dalton Kincaid. And if you can, just send your league mate this chart and be like, hey, Kincaid is going ahead of these 2 players, TJ Hawkinson or Mark Andrews, whichever manager has that asset, and be like, hey, any thought on just trading straight up? I'll give you Dalton Kincaid for Mark Andrews. You know, everyone thinks Mark Andrews is this old guy. He's only 4 years older than Dalton Kincaid. So what are we talking about? I love Mark Andrews. I love TJ Hawkinson way more than I like Dalton Kincaid. And I think their ceilings are pretty similar all the way across the board. Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson's floors are just so much higher than Dalton Kincaid's, who could just be just like a tight end to his career. My buy low on this round is wide receiver 23. It is DK Metcalf. He's 26 years old. He's got a lot of juice left in the tank. Half PPR 2020. He's wide receiver 7. Half PPR 2021, week 1 to 17. He was wide receiver 10. 22, he was wide receiver 17. 23, he was wide receiver 15. A lot of this because he has the ability to stay healthy. He's extremely durable, so he's a reliable asset. Granted, because of that, his average is going to be a little bit lower in half PPR scoring formats than a lot of other guys. But we have reason to believe that his value is about to skyrocket. His target share is about to skyrocket because Tyler Lockett, unfortunately, is dust. He finally hit that age cliff that we were all kind of wondering when it was going to come. I think we saw it last year, unfortunately. I think that was a big reason the Seahawks had a little bit of struggle on offense, especially in the second half of the season. So some honorable mentions for this round and buy low. Of course, TJ and Mark Andrews would be on the top of my list of guys you'd be trying to buy for Kincaid. And honorable mention, sell high. I would say Rashee Rice. The only reason I don't put him on the list is because I'm a big believer of him as a talent. The Chiefs, I think, are going to bring on 1 or 2 more pass catchers to kind of help Patrick Mahomes out this upcoming season for how last season went offensively. And you're just going to get, hopefully, somebody to pay that massive Super Bowl champion tax. We all saw Rashee Rice perform through the playoffs extremely well. Another reason maybe his value is a little bit higher. He got more reps as a rookie with his quarterback. But if you can get a massive haul for Rashee Rice for somebody who's in that same tier as wide receiver like Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, a young guy like that, Tank Dell, a young guy like that, and something else, a Super Bowl tax, a first round or second round Super Bowl tax for Rashee Rice, go ahead and get it. I don't know what the market's like in your particular league, so go ahead and put him up on the trade blocks and see what you can get. But you better get a lot for Rashee Rice because I really like him still. Moving on to the 6th and final round for this video. Unfortunately, for me, I think we have to try to sell Rachaad White high. You're not even getting a crazy value for him, unfortunately, this season. He is currently being drafted running back 10, so like a back end running back 1 for your league. If it is a 12-team league or a 10-team league, I guess it would be the legit back end. James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Tajee Spears, all going after him. And I would kind of chunk him to the end of this round behind Tajay Spears, unfortunately. Tajay Spears, that is a little bit of a high draft cost to pay for him. Granted, I think, will be the running back 1. He looks great on film. The only concern being that those knees. There was like a big concern with his knees coming out of college, is why he wasn't drafted as high as he was. Didn't seem to slow him down. There's a lot of regenerative medicine stuff going around. I am a licensed chiropractor. I know I work with regenerative medicine doctors for some of my patients, and they're doing a lot of good stuff, especially with knees. There's actually new surgeries going on with knee cartilage where they're basically putting like living tissue in their knee cartilage, and it's rejuvenating the knees by the magic of science to save you to save you from the nerdy stuff. Tajay Spears might have a great long career, and if he does, you're going to get a steal at running back 15 in startup drafts right now. So Rachaad White, I'm concerned about his efficiency this year as a runner. He was great catching passes. He looked fine on film, but overall, I don't see that situation improving for him as much as the situations might improve for the rest of the guys that are going right after him. So unfortunately, I would be looking to try and get out from Rachaad White and cash in on an amazing season that he just had as running back 5. My buy low candidate for this round, it's obvious in my opinion. He's tight end 2 this season in half PPR formats, even though he missed a game and a half basically with a preseason injury, a training camp injury. Travis Kelce going this late, tight end 8 is a crime, in my opinion. He should probably still be going up ahead of this group of tight ends from the previous round. I get that he's old. I get that he doesn't look as explosive as he usually does. He's still tied to Andy Reid. He's still tied to Patty Mahomes. He wants to win another championship. And honestly, if you can bag him in the 6th round, he'll probably win you a championship this year. And if you're in a 10-team league, if you win 1 out of every 9 years, you're going to profit at the end. If you're in a 12-team league and you win 1 out of 11 years, you're going to profit in the long run. And in my opinion, I think Travis Kelce is going to win you a championship this year. There's a lot of narrative saying that he's old and he's dust and he's not looking like he used to. He was tight end 2 this past season. He's been a top 3 tight end perennially for probably as long as Dynasty has been a semi-popular format in fantasy football. And in the 6th round, if you can get 2-3 years of production out of whatever asset that you're drafting, that's a massive win. And if you can get a tight end 1 or a wide receiver 1 or a quarterback 1 for 1 or 2 out of those seasons, you're probably going to win a championship out of it, unless you absolutely butcher the rest of the draft. So if you set yourself up in a position to get Travis Kelce in the 6th round and you have a couple quarterbacks already and he's just the cherry on top, you are in an absolutely spectacular situation in startup drafts. And if you can trade for him right now for a 2nd round rookie draft pick before the combine, you got to do it. You got to do it ASAP, because he's just going to keep on keeping on. And I think he could just be one of the exceptions to the rule where he just plays for another 5 years and is, towards the end of his career, still a tight end 1, still a starter for your team, where you have some time to come up with a plan for who's going to replace him on your dynasty roster. So for that reason, I would definitely be taking all the Travis Kelce shares that I can get. I imagine in best ball fantasy, he's going to rise pretty quickly. So you're not going to have as good of an opportunity on that format to really cash in on him, but cash in on Travis Kelce right now. I get that he could be done in 2 or 3 years, or he could be dust like Tyler Lockett in 2 or 3 years, like we were just talking, but ride him until the wheels fall off, because that's what he's already said he's planning on doing, is riding until the wheels fall off. He does have Taylor Swift on his side now, so I guess that would be the big red flag, is if they do break up, he could get severely depressed and quit football and go live with Jason, his brother, and just talk about football for the rest of his career. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it is true love. And my name is Jamie Jakes. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing Dynasty content a lot coming up into this time of season. And then after the NFL draft, we will probably slowly shift into best ball fantasy football, which is tied for my favorite format of fantasy football. Thank you guys. Leave a comment and subscribe. Good night.